Welcome to Living Your Faith. Welcome back to our program. We talked about St. Agnes a moment ago, and now we're going to talk about Saint Cecilia. St. Agnes, as I might have mentioned last time, has two feast days on the traditional calendar. The 21st, the day of her death, the 28th of January, the 7 days later, the day remarking on or celebrating her reward in heaven. Saint Cecilia also has two feast days. One is the 22nd of November, and one is the 14th of April. 14th of April, by the way, is actually a feast day also of her husband, Saint Valerian, and his brother, Tibertius. Valerian married Saint Cecilia. In fact, it's a very extraordinary story, unique in the story of the history of the saints. Saint Cecilia had promised her virginity to Christ and consecrated herself to Christ in her virginity. And she did not want to get married, but her parents nevertheless betrothed her to Valerius, who was a very important man in the city of Rome, a young man, a wealthy man, and as was Cecilia. Cecilia was a very beautiful girl, very, very beautiful, and also a very wealthy family and very powerful, that is, very high standing in the city of Rome. And so this is an extraordinary thing happened. She prayed and fasted. She didn't know what to do because she had been betrothed by her parents' will, not her own, to marry Valerian. And she wore a hair shirt. In fact, from the 3 days before her wedding, she wore this hair shirt and continued to wear it to the rest of her life. And she asked God to solve this problem. How could she be marrying this pagan man, this man of Rome, and who would not understand her Christianity and who wanted to marry her to be her husband? So what happened? God sent his angel, the guardian angel, to speak to Cecilia. And he said, after her fervent prayers, he answered this way. He assured her that Valerian, although he would be her husband, would not take her for himself, that she would keep her virginity, which would have been consecrated to Christ. Knowing that this would happen, Cecilia went ahead with the wedding. So here you have the only thing, other than the Blessed Virgin Mary herself, a consecrated virgin getting married with the intention of maintaining her vow, which she did. What happened then? After the second day after their wedding, when they were finally by themselves, Cecilia told Valerian that he should not touch her, because if he did, that his angel, her guardian angel, was there and he might strike him dead. And Valerian was quite impressed by this, but some accounts say that at first he didn't believe her, but she said he wanted to see this angel, and he did want to see the angel no matter what, whatever account it is. But and she promised him he could see the angel on one condition: he became Catholic, and Valerian also he also wanted to know more about the faith, and so he was moved by a special grace, no doubt. And in response to his warning, he told Cecilia that he too would believe in God on one condition: they could see the angel. In which case, then the Blessed Saint Cecilia told him that to see the angel, he had to first of all become Catholic. He had to be first baptized. Cecilia wasn't expecting this response, of course, because the angel hadn't told her this is how it would turn out. And so she had tremendous joy, and she sent him to Pope Urban I, became Saint Urban I, and Pope Saint Urban converted Valerian. And when he came back after taking instructions in the faith from Urban, Valerian saw Cecilia with her angel, both of them together. And she was in prayer. And they were enveloped in the rays of heavenly light. Once he was able to recover himself from the vision of seeing his wife, Cecilia, and the angel in this vision, he had a great desire to convert his brother, Tibertius. And so he explained Christianity to Tibertius and Valerian, and told him everything that he'd been taught, and also Cecilia was there. Now, Cecilia, by the way, was very, not only was she beautiful, but she was also very intelligent, and she was able to explain things in such a way she persuaded Tibertius to become Catholic as well. And she explained to him that the devil invented pagan religions in order to have the souls damned to hell for all eternity. That while she spoke, the grace of God touched the heart of Tiburtius, and he also was instructed and baptized by St. Urban as well. So here you have first Cecilia, who is very well respected, very beautiful, but also highly placed in Roman society, who has consecrated her virginity to God. She gets married because her angel tells her that she can go ahead and she'll still preserve her virginity, which she does. And her husband converts, and her brother-in-law converts. And they are so taken with having discovered the true religion that they practice it fervently, and they start to give away their possessions to the poor so they can have possessions in heaven. And of course, it was not long before the news of their good works reached to the ears and their conversion reached the ears of the man named Alcimus, who was the prefect of Rome. And so he summoned Valerius and Tiburtius to himself. He wanted to know, who has taught you this folly? You see, Alcimus was a great persecutor of the Christians. The brothers answered him courageously, "It is folly, sir, to worship a statue of stone or of wood instead of the true God, and to prefer a life that lasts but a few days instead of to the great gift of eternal beatitude forever in heaven. Up to now we have partaken of this folly ourselves, but from now on we're resolved to be wiser. And you, Alcimus, should continue, if you continue to worship these false gods, you'll bewail your folly after death, where there will be no remedy of your eternal ruin." The Roman prefect was outraged by this rebuke, and in his anger he had the two of them brothers almost scourged to death. Almost, because he let them live after that. But why did he do that? Because he then had them in their weakened condition brought to a pagan temple to offer sacrifice to the gods to save their lives. And he sent an officer by the name of Maximus to take the two severely scourged men, that's Valerius and Tiburtius, to the temple of Jove, where they were to offer sacrifice to the pagan deity. If they refused to offer it, Maximus was instructed to put them to death after that. What happened? Well, being in the presence of these two brothers, Maximus was most impressed. He could not understand who these men who refused to worship to the devil, to these false gods, why they were so happy, why they were so joyful. And he needed an explanation from them. And so how is it possible that we cannot rejoice, they explained. How is it possible we cannot rejoice, finding that we are about to pass from this miserable life to one which is unspeakably happy and never-ending felicity? Curious, Maximus responded, is there then another life after this one? And they told him, yes, of course, without a doubt. Our souls are immortal, and after this life, which is, although it is short, is so full of tribulation, there's another life prepared by God for those who serve him faithfully. Maximus, St. Alphonsus tells us, Maximus was moved by these words, more so by the grace of God, and he said, if things stand thus, I also want to be a Christian. That same night, the execution was put off to the next day, and that same night was baptized in the presence of Saint Cecilia, and she spoke to him of the glory of martyrdom. When Valerian and Tiburtius were beheaded the following day, Maximus saw their souls enter into heaven. Angels were all around them, and their souls were the appearance of two bright stars. Seeing this wondrous sight, Maximus wept for joy, and he cried out, O you blessed servants of the true God, who can comprehend your glory as I see it? As I am also a Christian, why cannot I also enjoy the same blessed lot? Of course, Alcimus soon found out of Maximus's conversion to Christianity. And as a result of his conversion, many others were converted as well. Many other pagans were brought. This came to the attention again of the Roman prefect. He had this officer beaten with rods to such an extent that he died just by the beating of the rods. Maximus too died as he was beaten. With Valerian and Tiburtius gone, Cecilia knew that her time of martyrdom was imminent. She therefore sold all her belongings and included the property that formerly belonged to her husband and her brother. Mind you, she still had her house. and she gave away the proceeds from all her sales of these things to the poor. It wasn't long afterwards that Malcolmus discovered that Cecilia was a Christian and had her arrested. People were shocked and moved to tears at the sight of such a beautiful woman and one of such nobility, that of being led off to her death. Along the way, people begged her to renounce our Lord, but she, weeping not for herself but for them, said, "You speak thus because you are ignorant of the happiness of dying for Jesus Christ. Know then that I desire nothing more ardently." Here we see today in these feasts of St. Agnes, Saint Cecilia, and also Saint Ignatius, all of them this great desire for martyrdom, and that they're also with Tibertius and his brother Valerian, the husband of all of them, have this great joy and our desire because of the great love of God. As she continued to utter the words which the Holy Ghost gave her to speak, the desire to convert welled up inside her listeners. And she asked them if they believed, and they responded, "Yes, we believe, and we wish to become Christians." As a result of this encounter, some 400 people converted by Cecilia on the day of her arrest, all of whom were baptized by Pope St. Urban. St. Alphonsus tells us that most of these 400 people went on to become martyrs themselves. When she was finally brought before Alchemists, St. Cecilia was so, as I said, was so beautiful that he was so struck by her beauty he wanted to let her go free. But once he learned that she had converted so many people to Christianity, his attitude changed. He threatened her with death unless she was to immediately reform herself. That is, that if she would, of course, become a pagan. She replied for herself and for all Christians. She said, "You indeed condemn us to death, but instead of a wretched existence which we thus lose, God gives us an everlasting life of happiness. How can you wonder then that Christians have so little fear death?" Christians don't fear death, she pointed out, because they have such a great benefit to be received by dying. "You adore a statue of stone formed by a sculptor's chisel or an image made from a block that has grown in the forest. These are your gods, but the Christians, on the contrary, adore only one God, the creator of all things. And for so doing you condemn them to death. And why? Because they will not commit this act of impiety against God, of adoring a false God." He became furious. Alchemist became furious with Cecilia and imprisoned her, but not in a common jail, but in her own house. And he presumably was out of respect for her rank, but I think he also could see how effective her martyrdom had already become by just being arrested. She was converted 400 people. He feared some public outcry, and that's why he decided to kill her quietly, but his intent did not work. He wanted to suffocate it in an oven to death, away from the view of the public. But like St. Agnes, the means of dying originally planned by the persecutor did not work. Now, when it didn't work, Alchemist sent the executioner with an axe to cut off her head. Now the executioner was so struck by her, just her appearance, that he tried 3 times to kill her, to cut her, and he left her wounded severely in the neck. But the law required that you could only take 3 attempts. He could not make a 4th. So she was left to die by bleeding to death. This is what Cecilia did. She prayed to God to ask her to be able to live for 3 more days. And she took this opportunity to do 2 things. One was that she could confirm those that she had persuaded into the faith, to confirm them in the faith. To strengthen them in the faith, those who converted. And as St. Alphonsus tells us, most of those 400 people she converted, most of them died martyrs sometime later. The second thing she did in this 3 days was to be able to give her house to be dedicated into a church. And as a result of that, St. Cecilia's church is built over the ruins of her house. Now, St. Cecilia's body she died after 3 days, and her body is found incorrupt. Some people tell me that St. Cecilia's body incorrupt is the first saint to be incorrupt in the tomb. Of course, Our Lady was taken to heaven, so she assumed into heaven body and soul. But as far as the saints who are buried, the first Saint Cecilia is one of the first to be incorrupt, and her body was found in her church in around 1599, and a sculptor by the name of Stefano Maderno witnessed the exhumation, the unburying of her body, the exhumation, along with several other people, and he made a statue out of her body, using her body as a model. And it's this famous statue that people see all the time. And he swore testimony that he saw her real body, and that's how he made the statue. And we have on the floor, we have a picture of the floor of his testimony. And this is what he says: "Behold the body of most holy Virgin Cecilia, whom I myself saw lying incorrupt in the tomb. I have in this marble expressed for you the same saint in the very same posture." Saint Cecilia is the patron saint of musicians, because not because she played a musical instrument as she's often portrayed with, but because when her husband converted, she sang such a beautiful song in her prayer that the music was so beautiful that she inspires musicians to this day. And Saint Cecilia was also the part of my story, because my father was converted to the Catholic faith by Saint Cecilia. He came to Rome in the holy year 1925, and he came to Rome with his not to see Christian Rome. All his family had become Catholic. He was still Anglican, and he didn't want to see Catholic Rome, but he was interested in archaeology. So that's why he went to Saint Cecilia's church to see the archaeology underneath. And it was there he learned the story of Saint Cecilia. And touched by grace, he became a Catholic as a result of Saint Cecilia converting him in her own home over 1,000 years after her death. So let us remember to pray to the saints, to ask them to protect us, to intercede for us, and realize that the martyrs have a great many merits. And St. Augustine tells us that God wants to give us great favors and great things for us, but if we got them ourselves, we become proud. So God has found a way to give them to us even though we don't deserve them, and that is through the merits and the prayers of the saints. So let us ask the intercession of the prayers of the saints, to ask them to give us the graces we cannot obtain by our own merits. And let us above all ask the Blessed Virgin, who was the Queen of all saints and the Queen of all martyrs, that she obtain for us soon the grace of the Pope to do the consecration of Russia before it's too late for all of us. Remember to pray the rosary every day. God bless you. And we're with you on our program next time, Living Your Faith. I'm Father Nicholas Gruner.
La Madonna sa come far avvenire i miracoli e sono sicura che troverà il modo affinché il Papa guardi questo DVD e ascolti in prima persona cosa hanno da dire i fedeli in merito alle condizioni in cui si trovano oggi il mondo e la Chiesa. Troppi governi e troppi religiosi, è triste a dirsi, lo so, ma è così, inclusi molti sacerdoti, parroci, vescovi e persino cardinali del Vaticano, non stanno rispondendo con la dovuta serietà e la necessaria prontezza a questa malvagità che minacciano la vita e l'anima di innumerevoli persone in tutto il mondo. Santo Padre, il vostro gregge è disperato, vulnerabile e confuso dinanzi a questi pericoli che minacciano di portar via la vita e soprattutto l'anima di tanti fedeli. Siamo profondamente preoccupati per il futuro dei nostri figli e ancor più per il loro benessere spirituale. Il mondo è scoraggiato e si unisce all'unisono in un grido disperato. Quale speranza ci rimane? Santo Padre, la speranza per il mondo intero è nelle vostre mani, perché soltanto voi potete salvare l'umanità obbedendo alla santa richiesta della Madre di Dio, la Beata Vergine Maria, la quale a Fatima ha detto: solo io posso aiutarvi. La Madonna ha chiesto che il Santo Padre, insieme a tutti i vescovi del mondo, compiano nello stesso giorno e alla stessa ora una consacrazione collegiale della Russia al Cuore Immacolato di Maria. Si tratta di una preghiera di soli 5 minuti. Santo Padre, non vi preoccupate delle ripercussioni di questo gesto o delle minacce che vi intimano di non farlo. Abbiate fede nella promessa della Madonna. Il paradiso non commette errori. Nostro Signore ha compiuto il grande miracolo del sole e ha fatto sì che le profezie di Fatima si compissero tutte proprio affinché voi, Santità, poteste credere in esse ed obbedire quindi alle richieste della Madonna di Fatima. Affidatevi completamente alla guida amorevole che vi offre la Madonna di Fatima. Affidatevi alla sua materna promessa e protezione, come giustamente voi ricordate ai fedeli di tutto il mondo. La Madonna ha chiesto la consacrazione della Russia, non del mondo. Ed ella non gioca con le parole. Vi prego, Santo Padre, di prendere seriamente e letteralmente le parole della Madonna. Non possiamo cambiare una formula preparata da nostro Signore, che il cielo ci ha fatta avere per mezzo della Beata Vergine Maria. Santo Padre, quando battezzate un bambino di nome Giovanni Paolo, voi non battezzate di certo tutti i bambini del mondo, perché quel battesimo non sarebbe valido. Santo Padre, quando consacrate la chiesa della Madonna di Fatima, voi non consacrate tutte le chiese del mondo, perché quella consacrazione non sarebbe valida. Senza nominare specificatamente e precisamente il nome di quel bambino oppure il nome di quella chiesa, nessuno dei due sarà stato consacrato in modo efficace. Allo stesso modo, e a maggior ragione, non è possibile consacrare la Russia al cuore immacolato di Maria se non la si menziona per nome durante tale consacrazione. Consacrare tutte le nazioni del mondo non equivale a scegliere in particolar modo la Russia, preservandola e consacrandola specificatamente al Signore. Consacrare tutte le nazioni del mondo non equivale a scegliere in particolar modo la Russia, preservandola e consacrandola specificatamente al Signore. Questa consacrazione non è mai avvenuta e non può avere quindi gli effetti promessi. Santo Padre, voi, meglio di tutti noi, siete a conoscenza di questa verità. Noi fedeli cattolici guardiamo a voi per essere protetti e guidati contro le forze diaboliche che attentano alla nostra anima tutti i giorni della nostra vita. Per questo non riusciamo a capire come mai non abbiate ancora voluto compiere la consacrazione della Russia. A secondo di quanto detto dalla Madonna, l'ordine impartito dal Signore di consacrare la Russia è stato ritardato già troppo a lungo ed il tempo a nostra disposizione sta per scadere. La Madonna ha offerto l'unica soluzione possibile, ma questa può realizzarsi soltanto grazie a voi, Santità. Ogni giorno di ritardo nel compiere questa consacrazione comporta la perdita di un numero sempre maggiore di anime e di vite umane. Oggi centinaia di migliaia di persone vengono perseguitate, torturate e uccise a causa della propria fede in Cristo. Per favore, Santo Padre, non prolungate questo stato di cose, proteggete il vostro gregge, vi imploriamo di consacrare la Russia prima che sia troppo tardi per tutti noi. Lo diciamo con amore e devozione nei vostri confronti, Santità, anche alla luce di ciò che raffigura la visione del terzo segreto di Fatima. Santo Padre, noi preghiamo quotidianamente per voi. Salvateci, salvate i nostri figli e salvate anche voi stesso dagli orribili castighi profeziati da Gesù e da Maria se non procederemo al più presto ad obbedire alle richieste della Madonna di Fatima. Santo Padre, è venuto il momento di dimostrare alla Madonna di Fatima il vostro totale affidamento e la vostra assoluta obbedienza ai suoi comandi. Grazie e che Dio vi benedica tutti. La Madonna disse a Suor Lucia: a tutti coloro che il primo sabato del mese, per 5 mesi consecutivi, si confesseranno e riceveranno la Santa Comunione reciteranno il rosario e mi terranno compagnia per 15 minuti, meditando sui 15 misteri del rosario, in spirito di riparazione, io prometto di assisterli nell'ora della loro morte con tutte le grazie necessarie per la salvezza delle loro anime. Recitate il rosario ogni giorno per ottenere la pace nel mondo. Pregate molto e sacrificatevi per i peccatori. Molte anime vanno all'inferno perché non vi è chi si sacrifichi e preghi per loro. Sono giunta per avvertire i fedeli che è necessario che facciano ammenda e chiedano perdono per i loro peccati. Non offendano più nostro Signore, che è già molto offeso.